According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort. Shut your lying mouth, you biatch. About the mask that the figure was wearing, and the blood that spattered over you when he was shot. We have evidence of that with the camera. Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making all this up. I will murder you. Order, order, order! Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect addressed to Dr. Sithe of the Forensic Investigation Team. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then, Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sithe. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could never have been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away. I can feel it. Feel it in my balls. The truth behind all this is about to come out. I've got 3 of them up here. Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Sithe. I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zykes. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the Professor's office. Don't care. Betrayal is not in my nature, as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. And pepper. Aha! Anyway. She's not amused, Mr. Drebber. You took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Sithe, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime. And where's your evidence? I don't have any yet. But does that matter? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb! I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. I was gonna say, can we unmask it now? This model of the killer known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. Good lord, how did that get there? I do not know. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes, and officially pronounced him dead. But he wasn't. That remains to be seen. Is that so? According to the newspaper reports from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time with this nonsense. And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? Explain yourself, coward! If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Scythe's. A secret so profound, it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. What the dicks? Mr. Drebber, tell the court, tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery. If I must. So he was the student who saw it? You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tussbell's, I mean. Surely he's not going to claim that he's really what he saw, especially not after all these years. He was a research student at the University of London, was he? And a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me. Cat. You will all die. I mean, what? I feel like I'm getting more and more robotic with him, as I go. Because, like, when I first did his voice, I was trying to do a low Van Zykes with a slight robotic twinge. I feel like last episode, or whatever, the last episode that Drebber was a part of, I think that was 2 episodes ago, I feel like it was more I went much more just like full-on robot. What an interesting twist. When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now, here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters, and in a court of law too. I still got the moves though after all these years. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. Sure. Uh-oh, is she worried? Now, I just remembered, we know that a gunshot was heard, right? Like a gunshot, somebody shot the professor or whoever that was coming out of the grave. At least that's what the legend says. So I wonder if that could be either Miss Sithe, or maybe even Mr. Asman. So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Okie dokie. Yes, of course, as you wish. I will do that. Witness testimony. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Ah, the one that named you? Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? What is this baloney? Of course, you would have to have a screw loose if you believed a corpse could come back from the dead. But, so you're saying this article is a load of baloney, not with the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly, yes? Ah! If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sithe would have been working together. So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument? Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? Sure, whatever. That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. Grave robbing, you say? Is that not illegal? Yes. Exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuable buried with the dead. Oh, well, what a relief. So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists? A particularly unpleasant scourge on society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The repurposers. Sounds much nicer. That's quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir? Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches in the end. I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? Ah yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Is that Mr. Asman? Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done, claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish. Very foolish. Okay, he didn't name Asman just now. Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now. At once, my lord. Cross-examination, let's do this. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. Okay, the reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. The illustration of that newspaper article is based on what I witnessed that night. Thinking back now, I realize I never actually saw the professor at all, though. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. That would be Madame Tussbells. Gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Okay. Let's start with this, because it talks about the illustration itself. The strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time. You know, I was shaking like a leaf, but they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead? I started big, with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital, as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale. The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets. I'm sure it was a very popular story, and yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories. What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night. But it was full of lies. And from your description, he drew this illustration? Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see. Newspaper reporters want to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. Preach! So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate then? Well... Okay, moving on from that. Okay, I want to press him on this. I also want to press this. Because we have Madame Tussbells up here with us. She might react to this since he's talking about it. But let's do this first and then we'll do that one. What are you talking about, sir? I think I explained already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. And as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it. I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night. Well, I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did see the professor? If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodo. I know. I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his. The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. I don't think we have anything yet. Yeah, this had nothing about Drebber in it. I don't think we have anything that links him to... I mean... Yeah, I don't know. We got this... I don't think that has anything to do with the professor, though. Okay, well, let's press this point.
Hold it!
That young woman being Madame Tussbells, of course. Precisely. I must say, I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later. She is sexy as hell. As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article and... Comme ça, I found the man. Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me. So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display. The story doesn't make sense. I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded. Ah, oui. I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day. Ne sais pas. I was so happy I could dance. Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madam? His camera. Ah! Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery. You took a camera with you, sir? To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it. I see. But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Tuspel's way. It would seem then, that camera, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to Logate Cemetery on the night in question. Yes, interesting. Okay. The actual camera that Mr. Drebber had with him in the cemetery 10 years ago, when the lens extended, dark staining can be seen on the bellows. So does that help us with this? He's saying he never saw the professor at all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the camera helps us with that necessarily. Yeah, because it's not like we, it's not like we have a picture of the professor on the camera or something. Okay, but we are insinuating that this is the actual camera.
Hold it!
By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do you? Surely, you will need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that. The lantern and spade. You mean the shovel? I mean, what? But who knows want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital? A hospital? In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made surreptitious arrangements with the hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. Interesting. We would never take anything of value from the graves. That was all for the furtherance of science, you say. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand. What a noble goal. You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences. Yeah, my bad. We students were caught between the hammer and anvil. We needed funds for research. Professor Harebrain said exactly the same. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you reveal this abhorrent behavior. Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Logate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day. Okay, one more thing to press and then we'll go from there.
Hold it!
This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus? Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. And carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was extremely defiled, and I was expelled as a result. Mon Dieu, I had no idea. And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. Yes. You combined your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. You're a fraud, and you use these deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he? Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. Oh. She's just staying silent? What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now. What circumstances? Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Scythe's past that she would desperately want to hide. Yes, of course. If Drebber and Dr. Scythe are working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead as he originally claimed. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly. Okay, so, based on the fact that it's very clear they wanted me to present something here, in fact, they actually just confirmed just now that we need to, we need to prove that he did see the professor, and the fact that we just got the camera updated. I'm wondering if I just have to present that. Maybe the point is that he had the camera there, there's even blood in it. So maybe he took a picture? Or recorded it? I don't know if you could record with this camera, but... yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything new to examine. I'm gonna try it.
Objection.
Nothing. The music didn't stop. Okay. We've had this dialogue already. Yes, yes, yes. I'm suck. Okay, well, let's think about it then. So he's saying he didn't see the professor at all, so we gotta prove that he did. I mean, we have the head. Like, you stole the head. Could that be it? Like, why would he have stolen the head if... like, why would he have kept the head specifically? If he had not seen the professor? Let me just keep going through this. I don't think there's anything with that. The camera had nothing to do with the camera, apparently. Here's Drebber himself. He does have the little eye monocle thing. I don't know if that's a camera. Photograph print. It's hard to make out, but he appears to be wearing a monocle with black glass. That's Mr. Asman's report. Maybe it's just the head? I'm gonna try it. I really hope this has to do with it.
Objection.
No! Dang it! I always get to this point where I just start screwing up. Now it's weird because I got this camera, so I feel like I have to use it for something. I don't know if now that I have the camera, I don't know if I have to go back and like press him on something. Maybe I should press him on this again.
Hold it.
See if there's new dialogue now that I have the camera. Let's just skip through this. And hopefully there wasn't like a reaction I missed. Usually it's pretty obvious when there's a reaction from somebody from one of the other witnesses, but... yeah, we gotta present something here. And I pressed every other point. I wanna make sure there's nothing on the camera itself that I'm missing. Because that has screwed me over a lot before. I almost want to open it up again, but it shows a check mark now, so I don't think there's anything new there. I don't know. I'm kind of I mean, story of my life, but I'm kind of lost. Again, this isn't evidence, right? Because it's just a drawing. He's claiming that it's false. It's not actually proof that he actually saw the professor. And like I said, it's weird that the camera got updated, but we're not using it. That's the other thing that's throwing me off. I forgot about that part. So we're trying to... something that would uncover something from Scythe's past. Maybe I should be looking at it from that angle too? But it's still coming back to the fact that we still need to disprove this point. He's wearing that black monocle now. The one that's in the picture. I want to try this. Maybe I'm right about it being like a camera. Maybe even though he wears that camera, maybe he has like some weird futuristic camera eye. I honestly don't know. But why do we need to show a picture? He's wearing it now. Like, but I mean, it's the only evidence we have that specifically points to that. And when was that picture taken? It just says it's just a picture of him. I know we haven't used this yet for anything, but I don't know why this would prove anything. Ooh, I'm so lost. I hate when this happens too, because you just get so in your own head, and I start to panic. I'm like, oh gosh, I've been sitting here for a while, and I'm just lost. I have no idea. And it's hard when you're on camera. It's even extra stressful. Well, I saved, so let's try it.
Objection.
Nope. I was gonna reload my game, but I'm like, nah, I'll just keep going. One more. Ah, what do I do? Again, I'll reiterate though, we just got this updated, so it makes me think we have to use it, but on what? Maybe a different point? Now the camera is in the picture. Is that the evidence? Oh, wait. That might be it. Because if this was drawn, then he had to have actually, whoever drew this, Mr. Asman, had to have actually witnessed this since he's wearing the camera that he took on that night, right? I really hope that's it.
Objection.
Yes, okay. I feel good that I figured it out, that it wasn't just a total guess. Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. Ooh, that took me longer than it should have. Don't believe what? Your latest claim, you did see the professor on the night 10 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds. But I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in the closed court's ruling that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during its execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard... Ah! Wait, so did it have nothing to do with the camera? A lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. Whoopsie doodles. I guess I did stumble upon that one. So unless you'd actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. Ah! Okay. That is true, you are right. Might be. Order! Order! Well, Mr. Drebber? You all suck. Let me do my robot dance. It is a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. Say what? And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I have it in my head that I'd seen a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, of course. Only too happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point. Darn it, after all that work, stumbling upon the right answer. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. What? Okay, let's press him on that. A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see. You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as you yourself. Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly, the fellow is using such a mask to protect his anonymity. Wouldn't you say?
Objection!
Bull crap. But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. If a gravedigger had saw someone in the cemetery, I think that might have been rather big news, my lord. Ah, yes, well, I guess so. I can only assume it was an embellishment.
Strange.
Bolted on later by the reporter. Got something to say, Tussbells? I was hoping one of them would interject.
Excuse me.
Let's see what she has to say. Slam! Madam Tussbells. Don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes. his head just like snaps or starts cracking. Ooh la la, pardon? Ooh la la. What? I was lost in my thoughts. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way? I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber proclaims this now. If you don't mind me saying, madam, what are you talking about? Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, known? Including the gunshot. Ooh. Stop. Oh. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
No. Have a care, Drebber. That's not a way to speak to a lady. Have some common decency. Grr. Please, Madam Tussbells, carry on. Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort. Shut your lying mouth. You biatch. No, you are very explicit about the details. About the mask that the figure was wearing. And the blood that spattered over you when he was shot. We have evidence of that with the camera. Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making all this up. I will murder you. That will do. No threats in my courtroom, Mr. Drebber. Yes. You refute the account just given by Madame Tussbells? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on. Do you expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. It's not baseless. I have proof. Right. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness. Very well. Okay, this, I think I know what we gotta do. There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any splattering blood. Bull crap. Okay, I know exactly what we gotta do. Now we use the camera.
Objection!
Objection! Okay, now feels good being back on track. Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera? Oh crap. But that is the camera from that fateful night. Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. Might be, we'll return it later. Probably not. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber. And is not supposed to be significant. It is very significant. This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forwards on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
Say what? What's that? There, just on the bellows. Ketchup. It looks like a dark red stain. Ah! Crap nuggets. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood. Just as Miss Tuspel said. Something that can be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Sithe? Let's get somebody else. Let's get somebody else to do it. It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. I guess they're not advanced enough for that, but that's all we need to know. I propose that Madame Tuspel's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, and that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. Grr. Gah. Got him. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
What are you objecting to? But why? Why would he want to do that? I do like that we're working together at this point. Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose, then? Who could benefit? Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness! He's shielding someone? Yes, my lord. And clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. I'm assuming it's Miss Sithe. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night? Right? It's gotta be, Courtney Sithe. Can't think of who else it would be. And she's involved.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Sithe. Sithe? Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. That would look bad for her. If it was the professor. That would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean negligence, that the execution never actually happened. Oh. I thought it was just a failed execution, but imagine that. What? Did they just bury him alive? That's awful. That's definitely one of my worst fears there. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
They did this mafia style. Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape, not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. If that were really true, counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary, from the ground up. And that's what Strongheart is probably trying to hide. Interesting. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Sithe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret. Even if that meant being complicit in a crime. You mean? I do mean. I mean that Dr. Sithe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. Okay, so she wasn't doing it totally willingly. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ah! That's right. We got you too. Lick my shoes. Sorry? Lord Van Zykes? Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. I am losing my patience. Goodness me! It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So, let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Well, I have no idea at the moment. We have too little information to work that out at present, I think. I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I'm wondering if it was Mr. Asman. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. Ugh. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a... Oh, wait, sorry. Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? Yeah, not easy. It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some state deception when she's so much at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too. Yes, I have no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no? There is the contract, that's very true. But maybe it had nothing to do with the contract. Maybe Mr. Drebber had a reason to sign something that was more important. The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it. Feel it in my balls. Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place. If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means Mr. Drebber's motive wasn't money at all. That's what I'm thinking. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman. But why? What was his motive then? Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. They're like, your health bar is almost gone. You really suck at this game. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country? At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright. Who exactly was Mr. Asman to Drebber? Huh, they were lovers. That's what it is. They were having a fight, a quarrel. There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. And I'm going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. Oh, shoot. Yes, my lord? The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. Oh, maybe it's this? Well, would we need that though? Because I know we established it had nothing to do with the money, but I'm just thinking maybe... Yeah, it doesn't make sense. We wouldn't need that though. I still think it definitely has to do with this, because we're pointing out that we haven't explicitly said that Asman is the one who witnessed this. And this shows that his, that is his, Oh, maybe? Because it's not his full name, it just says Asman. I don't know. I'm gonna try both of these. I definitely think it's this. It has to do with this 10-year-old article. I'm not sure if we have to present the contract as well, because it also has the same autograph that matches it. Or if there's something else. There's this trophy we haven't used yet. Maybe that has something to do with it. I have no idea. He's not in this picture or something, is it? I'm gonna try it.
Take that!
It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, okay, I might be on the right track. It will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asman dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which when cross-referenced with the newspaper article, establishes the motive for the deed. I'm gonna go with this, maybe? Just because it has the same signature? See if I'm right. It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common, okay? I'm glad I noticed that. Really? And it's that common link. That shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. I don't know how you all missed it. So, my learned friend, point out what those two pieces of evidence have in common. I can do that. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract? What could it be? What could it be? It's this lantern, of course! No. I'm not gonna do the same mistake I did last time. Okay.
Take that!
Got him! What these two pictures have in common is a signature. A signature? Yes, Judge, very good. The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? Dang nabbit. As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. Ha! And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom. I don't like you call him Asman. It's probably like Asman. Let me see now. Good lord, yes, they're identical. In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asman. Ooh, had a hiccup there. I'm dead. Catch me, Miss Sithe. No. But explain to the court why. Why would the court constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. Grave robbing, you say? Yes. Exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir? Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Was it for revenge? Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Yeah, so if I was just revenge. At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, the single newspaper article changed your entire life. Makes sense. So, Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article, written by Mr. Asman. Enough! I'm about to lose my shit. Oh, just kidding. I'm just doing the robot again. Stop this endless drivel about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber! Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? It is an expression. Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with the hypothesis anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious! That's a depressing outlook. Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
I don't quite buy that. Mr. Drebber? Do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true. Oh, the trophy! Your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Or Eve. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it. I got you. What could you possibly have to prove the idea that I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? The trophy. A Royal Science Trophy for excellence in science. And it was found in Mr. Drebber's workshop, so it belonged to him. I'm gonna say it. Take that!
Take that!
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Damn it. I knew I should have disposed of that. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? You can see that from way over there? Good job. What exactly is this trophy, Counsel? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious. Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, you saw an opportunity. It's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. What do you have to say to that? Sithe has been awfully silent. I am falling asleep. The truth is... Finally, he's going to fold. Is he, though? Uh-oh, who was that? Was that Courtney Sithe? Maybe Strongheart? I don't think Strongheart's even here. My turn now. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now. What? I admit it. All of it. Oh. What? What are you doing? You biatch. It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. Okay, that was easy. No. Good lord! Unless she was really more complicit in it and she figured she'll get a lesser sentence if she says that she was coerced. Dr. Sithe, do you realize what you're saying, woman? It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. Are we gonna get to see who that is? That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best very deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Interesting, so... Dr. Sithe, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night, 10 years ago. So, blackmail! And so it was literally at that moment that she worked with him. It wasn't from the get-go. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. Well, you did have a choice. You just chose to do the wrong thing. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. Like, at the end of the day, it's not like her family was threatened or something. Right, or, you know, it was just to expose her past, which she was in the wrong for. We still don't know the details about that. There's really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Protect the judiciary or protect yourself and your reputation? Drebber's over there still like, why on earth would you buckle now? Because I hate your guts. Well, there's no point trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. At least someone has some sense. So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything. I will not go down without a fight. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then. I have a feeling he's not going to. I admit nothing at all. What? I thought we were done with this. Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No! You gotta figure something out. Order, order, order! Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Zykes? Yes? I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. We got it. I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Very true. It has slipped my mind. With all this excitement, I forgot why we were even here. Isn't he one of your closest friends? That's debatable. As the court has heard, Dr. Sithe has admitted to the allegation brought by the defense. Oh, so we're gonna prove Hairbrain's innocence, but Drebber's gonna get away? Or maybe we're gonna have a future trial where he's involved again. Maybe he'll be a murder victim. Who knows? As the court has heard, Dr. Sithe has admitted to the allegation brought by the defense. I think I read that already. Thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean... At the present time, it is the conclusion to this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? Guess not. None, my lord. We'll pin his ass to the wall later. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo! Huzzah! You've proven Professor Hairbrain's innocence! And yet, I feel unfulfilled for some reason. Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss. No, we good. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Sithe suddenly admit to it like that? Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is... Okay. I'm gonna assume that we're not done here. In fact, that's giving me this option.
Objection.
We're not done yet. The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon? We sadly haven't even unmasked the professor. We demand one final testimony. What? Are we gonna have to choose who? Because I have no idea. You do realize I'm about to abdicate in favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that. Well, I am not in my right mind, sir. Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking? The truth, the whole truth, and a way to bring it all out into the open. Right! We got this. Yes, in hindsight. That's right, he gave us a little parting gift, or parting words of advice. Oh yes, one word of warning before I go. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog in heat. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Okay, well, I'm heeding your words. Hopefully you're not full of crap. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client. And to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court. To pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Sithe. Testimony from me? About what? About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber. Ha! In case it's escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. So stop wasting everyone's time. Ah! As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point protracting this, business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection.
That Lord Van Zykes? Whoopsie doodles, I have something to say. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. I slipped. That's what you call it? What is your objection, Lord Van Zykes? The prosecution also called for supplementary testimony from the witness. Don't be stupid. if there is more to this case than has yet come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end. Your what? Lord Van Zykes? This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Sithe, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber. I was ready to get some lunch, but what the hell? Very well. Alright guys, I was gonna try and see this trial to the end. At least in one recording. There's definitely gonna be multiple episodes, but I think we're at I've been recording for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we have a whole nother testimony to do. I always get nervous though, because I don't know how much there is left. It's hard to gauge that. But I feel like there's still a decent amount more, because even once we, even if this is, let's say this is the last testimony, and let's say I don't get stuck and actually do it pretty quickly, usually the conclusion of the trial and stuff is usually a bit drawn out, you know what I mean? Because they have to kind of have to do a conclusion, and sometimes they hint at other stuff to come, and there's usually a bit more to, the final section of a chapter. So, I think there's still a decent amount left for another episode, but my voice is starting to go. Still got that cough, and I was I don't want to stop because I'm really into this. This is getting super exciting. I feel we must eventually unmask who the professor is, and I still think it's going to be some wild revelation. I'm starting to think my theory is wrong. It doesn't seem like it's going in that direction at all about the body switch, but who knows? But part of me thinks that obviously the professor, since they're going through such lengths to hide the professor's identity, it's somebody important. Might even make sense that it's somebody who's still alive. I really don't know, but I'm really excited to find out in the next episode. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm enjoying the heck out of this game. I hope you guys are too. If you are enjoying it, leave a comment down below. I want to hear from you guys what you think. Like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and of course share the video and the channel with your friends, family, and loved ones. And I'll see you next time. So take care, and bye-bye.